This is WPSL Port St. Lucie.
You're listening to WSTU Stewart.
Very pleasant good evening. Time for Coach's Corner with Coach John Messina.
Hello, Greg. How you doing tonight?
Doing okay.
Okay. I know I got Mike Thomas on the phone. Mike, how you doing?
I'm doing all right. Better than the FHSAA, ruining high school football since 2016.
That's going to be a whole nother show.
Here we go.
Don't get me started with that tonight.
Welcome to the BCS of high school football.
I tried to read it today for about an hour, and I still don't understand it, but we'll get to another show. I got some special guests tonight. I brought the new coaching staff at Martin County. We got head coach Brett Hawkins.
Hello, everybody.
And we got assistant coach Todd Belch, who used to be the head coach at Jensen Beach High School.
Hello, everyone.
And we got Scott Proctor, who is the Martin County standout years ago. I don't want to say how many. Pitched for many teams in the major leagues, including the New York Yankees. Hello, Scott.
Hey, how you doing?
Okay.
What, he couldn't hold a job?
No, they bounce me around all the time. No one can stand it.
They bounced him around. All right, Mike.
Welcome aboard, guys.
As we usually do, we're going to, instead of recapping the football games from last week, because I think just about everybody that should have won, and they won very big. Let's go over, I know there's 3 big games this week, okay? And we'll save the biggest one for last. Okay, the first one I want to talk about is Jensen Beach at Sebastian. What's your feelings about that?
That's a tough game for Jensen Beach. That was the game last year that told me how good Sebastian River was. Jensen Beach was playing really good football last year, and they got beat. My memory says they got beat pretty good by Sebastian River. That might not be 100% correct, but Sebastian River really impressed me with the way that they played against Jensen Beach last year. And Jensen Beach has done nothing but continue to improve. They are a very, very tough team to play. And Jensen Beach has playmakers. They certainly, you get a couple of punt returns for a touchdown in a game, and anything can happen. And they seem to have the knack for doing that this year. But that's going to be a real tough task for Jensen Beach to overcome the defense of Sebastian River.
Okay, now the second game we got, and it's going to be teams that we both have seen, or I have seen both of them, is Treasure Coast and playing against Fort Pierce Central.
Yeah, and you've got an advantage on me because you got to see Central for at least a little bit in week 1 against Westwood. I haven't had a chance to see Central at all, but I had seen Treasure Coast. And this has got to be a game where Central is going to go in as I feel, a heavy favorite. Treasure Coast defense is certainly the strength of that team, and they've got a good running attack. But what happens if Central goes out there and drops 2 touchdowns on them early? We've seen firsthand that Treasure Coast, just because they can't pass the football, because they're a running team, if they get behind, they're basically out of the game. And if Central's offense, and I'm done discounting Central and thinking that they might have a down year, they've proven time and time again that they are a very, very tough team this year, and they are right up there with some of the big Central teams that we've had over the past couple of years here on the Treasure Coast. And if they go out there and put up a couple of scores early, that game's going to be done by the second quarter.
Okay, and now the big game that we could be talking about for all week, okay, is the Martin County South Fork Martin Bowl. And if the quarterbacks do what they should do, we're going to be there about 4 hours, okay? Yeah. They'll throw about 70 passes combined. And Coach Hawkins, before we get to Mike, what's your feeling about the game and the school? Is everybody kind of pumped up for the game?
Oh, yeah, everybody's real excited. We had the TC Palm there today with picking with a little bit of excitement. Small pep rally at the end of the day.
You let Santucci on campus?
Yes, we did. Oh. We had a fire drill, though, right before. So it was,
right before, right when he got there. Okay.
Yes.
So that's how we started the afternoon.
Okay.
Yes.
That was planned, the fire drill, right?
Oh,
The pep rally?
Yes.
All right, I'm going to have to talk to Al about that, okay? All right, Mike, what do you think? I mean, you got the top 2 quarterbacks that maybe we have had in years playing against each other.
Yeah, and I know there's going to be some people from Vero Beach that might question that, and maybe some people from Proctor Central that might question that.
That's,
But Vero Beach, what they do is a product of the system, and Coach Jankowski has put together a system there that racks up a lot of yards, very tough to defend. But in my opinion, it's really the wide receivers that are the star of that Vero Beach offense. There's no doubt that the stars of Martin County and South Fork are the quarterbacks, Labanowitz and Kirkendall. And, these guys got their start 4 years ago playing in the Martin Bowl in week 1 of the regular season, coming in as these really highly touted prospects coming out of the little leagues there in Martin County. And you look at South Fork alone, and the fact that Coach Lavelle went with a freshman and was willing to almost change up his offense from that triple option rushing attack and just run it down your throat to, we've got a kid here, and yeah, he might be a freshman, but he can pass the football, so let's throw the football around. And to see him develop over the 4 years, he has had steady progress, and he is absolutely one of the top quarterbacks on the Treasure Coast. And then you got Kirkendall, who had a bumpier journey to get there, and he had a real up and down freshman year. Didn't start every single game. Had times when maybe he should have been benched for some of the other options on the roster, and Martin County just wasn't all that good there for a couple of years. And then, Kirkendall gets better throwing the football his sophomore year, set a school record for passing yards in a year, and comes out in his junior year and gets injured very early on and misses almost his entire junior year. And going into the regular season this year, all the eyes were on Labanowitz, and what is he going to do with his senior year after being a 3-year starter? And nobody was really paying attention to Kirkendall because nobody knew if he was even going to be the starter because of what George Johnson did last year replacing Kirkendall. And yet Kirkendall's lighting up the record books. He's already set a school record in passing yards, beating his own record from when he was a sophomore. They're only halfway through the regular season. He has a lot more opportunity, at least 5 more games, maybe more, to add to that record book. This game is even more than what I dreamed it was going to be 4 years ago when we were sitting and having these two teams play and these two quarterbacks play as freshmen. The rivalry wasn't there throughout the years, but it is absolutely there now. And I don't mean the rivalry between the schools. I mean the rivalry between the quarterbacks and seeing them kind of bounce off each other.
right. And I'm not going to put these guys on the spot because I know who they're going to pick. And I'm not going to pick anything because I know people at both schools, and I'm going to keep my mouth shut. But I'm going to ask you, Mike, who do you think is going to win this game?
It's a very good question. Would you be surprised if I told you South Fork is averaging more points per game than Martin County?
That's amazing. I would never have guessed that. Never have guessed that. I mean, I think the toughest job is going to be the referees running down the players after each pass play. I mean, I really think we could get close to 75, 80 passes combined, and that's amazing for high school.
The one thing you have to watch out for is you have to remember the X factor, and that's George Johnson from Martin County. I just don't know if South Fork has the athletes to cover or take away George and what he can do, not just coming in or doing the quarterback job, also playing the wide receiver spot, which he's done an amazing job this year.
And I really want to commend the young man for being the starting quarterback.
Absolutely.
And doing what is best for the team. There is a team player, letting Kirkendall, again, take that spot, does his spot. And then, does whatever the coaches need for best on the team. But anyhow, Mike, I want to thank you for calling in. Brett's going to open up the gate for us. We're going to be there a little bit early this week, 5 o'clock.
That's
we'll
right.
be there.
Get there early because the parking's going to be limited.
Yes, it will be.
Okay, as long as we got a spot here. I got the
I'll
man.
take care of you guys.
I got the man with the gate key right next to me. All right, Mike, I'll see you on Friday night then. Thank you again for calling in.
Thanks, Mike. And we have a programming change for WPSL. Originally scheduled to do Lenny Jankowski, the new commissioner of the BCS and the FHSAA. But anyway.
Greg, don't start with me because I won't shut up about this thing. It's going to be a whole nother show.
We were originally going to do Vero at Centennial, but the game of the week in St. Lucie County is definitely going to be Treasure Coast and Central, and Jeff Powers and I will be there.
Okay, so we'll compare notes. Okay?
Yeah, there you
we
go.
will.
You guys will have a great one.
Okay.
I'm looking forward to it.
Okay, before we start and we talk about you guys' program, and this was a real tough Saturday or Sunday for sports. We had two iconic figures pass away. One passed away from natural causes, which was the great Arnold Palmer, and the other one was Jose Fernandez of the Marlins in a tragic boat accident. In my lifetime, I was able to meet each one of them briefly. The Arnold Palmer story is going way back when he played in the U.S. Open in 1968 or 69 at Baltusrol. And I was working the tournament. I cut school.
Were any of you guys even alive?
They weren't
then?
alive then. They weren't alive. They're giving me one. But the funny story, I cut school to work in a tournament. That's another story. But I remember a few days before the tournament, I was on a practice range, and I'm picking up all the balls and setting them up nice. And all of a sudden, I get a tap on my shoulder, and he says, "Young man, is this spot taken?" Now, back then, they would only show golf once a week.
Sure.
And you didn't have ESPN, and you showed holes 14, 15, 16, and 17. That was it. And Arnold Palmer was like a Superman, he was like a god back then. And I said, "No, sir," and I'm stumbling and I'm bumbling my words. And then he said, "What's your name?" And I couldn't get it out. But, I finally said, "John." And then the next day.
Wow, something's never changed, John.
Something's never changed. I can't get these words out. But then the next day, I'm telling all my friends, "Oh, I met Arnold Palmer, this and that." Well, the next day I'm on the range, and the guys are sitting with me, and Mr. Palmer walked by, and he says, "Hi, John, have a nice day." I almost passed out. I almost passed out, and then that's the way he was. He was a genuine super guy. With Jose Fernandez, when we hosted the state baseball tournament from 2009 to 2012, he played on Tampa Alonso's team. Sophomore year, he came up. He was the number 2 pitcher, which is hard to believe as a sophomore.
Yeah, isn't that something?
He beat,
amazing.
Miami Columbus in the final game. And we all did not realize he was a sophomore at that time. And he shut down a real good Miami Columbus team. His junior year, they held him. It's a 4-game, it's a 14 format. You got to win 2 games. They played American High School, and Ricky Gutierrez was the coach from American. I think, Scott, Rick. And American jumped on their other pitcher 8-0 by the time they brought Jose in. It was too late. They lost in the first round. So his senior year, they're there again, 3 straight years.
Wow.
Great program.
Yeah, that was an amazing story.
Great program. Super kids.
Not much English spoken on that team, as a matter of fact.
It's the trend of baseball.
They played great baseball.
Oh, man.
Senior year, he pitched the first game, and he pitched against Park Vista. A good friend of mine, Larry Greenstein's the coach. The whole week before, I think it was almost a week and a half, there's a big lull, and we're going to talk about this later on, after you win the regional finals to when you get to play in the state championship. Well, Larry took his team down to batting cages, and they put the machine on 95, 96, 97 for a week. First 3 batters off of Jose. Now, this is the first round game. Guy hit a triple, single, and a double. And then after that, they didn't touch him because then he went to the breaking pitch, okay? So he pitches the first game. Second game, he's not pitching. They're down 5-0. He has hit a home run, which turned out to be the winning run. And all of a sudden, there was a big commotion down by Alonso's bullpen. Now, we ran this tournament for 4 years. We never had a problem. I said, "Oh, we had the championship game. We got a problem down there." It's Jose wanting to warm up to go into the game. There's 9 million scouts yelling at him. His coach is yelling at him. His parents are yelling at him. He says, "I got to win this for my team." And I'll never forget. Of course, he didn't go in. After the game was over, he came up and he says, "Did you run the tournament?" I says, "Yes." He says, "Thank you very much." And Scott, you can jump in for what you know about major leaguers. He had an enthusiasm that was just different from a lot of people.
Well, I think you said it. I mean, when a guy goes down there and he's willing to put his own, well-being on the line for his teammate, I mean, that's something that you don't see in the game as often as you should. And that's one of the things that we've been trying to do is really just instill that team atmosphere, that selflessness. But I mean, understanding that this is not Game 7 of the World Series in the big leagues, that there has to be a plan to protect them, from their own inexperience,
Right.
and that. But guys like that, they are a rare breed, and that's where the scouts, really salivate over these younger players that have the ability and the makeup and the selflessness to put the team in front of themselves.
Yeah, I think that's a great word to use, selflessness, because I mean he wanted to win that state championship no matter what. And they were there 3 years. They won it twice, and that first year we had the tournament, we had Jose there, Nick Castellanos there, Eric Hosmer there, Addison Russell there. I mean, it was one.
Just a little talent.
Yeah.
Wow.
Hey, did any of those guys make the big leagues?
Just a few.
I wasn't sure.
Just a few. And it was just a tremendous thing. But the Marlins showed a lot of class. Great tribute last night.
Yeah,
I don't know if you guys
Mm-hmm.
saw it on
Absolutely.
TV. That thing with D. Gordon where he bats,
Mm-hmm.
he gets up, and he's a left-handed batter. Bats first pitch, he takes it, he goes up right-handed.
With Jose's bat and
With
helmet.
Jose's bat and helmet.
Yeah.
And then he gets up left-handed, and the first pitch he sees, he hits it farther than any ball he has ever hit in his life.
Right.
And
Wow.
did you
I
play?
didn't get a chance to
Did
see
you
it.
play with these fathers? Did you play with Thomas Gordon?
Yeah, now you're aging me.
Flash
Okay.
Gordon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You played with
I
Flash.
remember.
Yeah.
You played with Flash.
Yeah,
was
Flash.
was
Yeah,
Ding hanging around the clubhouse then, or?
Every now and then you'd see glimpses of him, but Tom was a guy that took me under his wing. Florida guy, another Florida guy coming to the big
I
leagues,
know.
so
He beat us in a state championship in '87 when I was at Pacey, pitched for Avon Park.
Really, he's a
Yeah,
great guy.
yeah.
Great guy, taught me a lot about the game, so it's not surprising you see the same class in his son.
Yeah, and it was just a great tribute. And if I hope there's a replay of the game, because instead of all the music and all the commercials in between innings, it was just a tribute to Jose. And when I think of him, I'm always going to think of that smile. And you don't see that in the big leagues too much anymore. And to him, it was never a business. And I know talking to Brooke Fordyce last night and Kurt Abbott last night, and they were saying the same thing. This young man was special. ESPN had something on there today that they should make a special award called the Jose Fernandez Award. Todd, did you hear about that?
I read about that, and I also heard it on ESPN as well, where they were talking about basically like a passion award of how you should play the game and show enthusiasm and just have that behind you the whole time. I also heard today that there's a great chance that he might actually win the Cy Young Award based off his stats that he currently
I
finished
saw
with.
that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
That would be amazing.
That would be true. I mean, let's think about that for a second. Kershaw basically played a half a year.
Right.
Arrieta has not been the same.
I think the only person would probably be John Lester with his
John
record
Lester,
and
yeah.
his ERA,
Yeah.
but they might all cancel each other out in votes, and you never know. You never know.
I mean, he would have had 2 more starts. He had 16 wins. His last start, I happened to watch the game against the Nationals, and then I read in the paper today that he said that was his best game he ever pitched. And it's so ironic, and sometimes you wonder why things like this happen. You take a young man who is everything you wish for, in a ball player. That's the enthusiasm. That's the smile you want to have, whether he's hitting. And, I'm thinking at the state tournament, he was stealing bases, and his coach was going, no, don't run him. He's doing that.
Well, you think right before we saw him in the state tournament, you figure he had escaped Cuba. He'd been caught a couple times. I mean, that's the thing that's so amazing with this story. That, and I thought it was really neat to watch some of the players hitting the padding on the top of the dugout the way he used to, when the home run was hit. Oh, man.
And then when he came
Just
over
rip your
on the
heart out.
boat, it was a very large boat. And I think 3 people actually drowned on their way over. They were shot at on their way over. And then halfway through the trip, and I hope I'm getting this right, a lady fell off.
It was his mother.
And
Yeah,
it was his mom?
mother.
Yeah, it was
He
his
didn't
mom,
know
yes.
it was his
No,
mom.
he did not know his mom.
He jumped in the water and saved her, and it was his mom, But, I mean, that's the way baseball's supposed to be played. And I mean, It definitely. I hope they put that award in for him. That would be
That'd be
something.
cool.
That would be something special.
Scott, did you ever go to Havana? Did you guys ever?
No,
play,
that was
play over there?
no. Unfortunately, I got a chance to play several places. That was not one of them. But baseball's different down there. Many of the Latin American countries. I mean, you talk about the passion. That's what they.
Oh, yeah.
They stress is it's.
Well, why do you think that? Why do you think that it is with them?
I think it's again. I mean, it's a culture to them. It's the same thing I experienced when went overseas to Korea and Japan. I mean, those guys from the time they're born until they get into pro ball, that is their life. Their families look at it a different way than and down in Latin America. Like I said, I never got a chance to go to Cuba, but it's a survival tactic too. It's your way out, and those guys look at it at a whole different way than what we experience here.
And then when I first started at Pace in the late 70s and the early 80s, most of my players, 90% of my players were Latin ball players and Latin families, and they were first generation coming over. And the passion that they had, not just for the games, but for practice. I remember 2 or 3 times I wanted to give them days off. Remember this, Coach, when we started this year. I wanted to give them days off. They overruled me. The practice they had for passion, and it was very, very team orientated. The parents were super. And this is hard to understand in this day and age, but I actually had parents come up to me and says, "Take my son out. He's not doing his job." And you don't see that anymore.
Yeah, it was interesting. You talk about just the whole passion aspect of it. Mike Brito of the Dodgers, and he would talk about South American or Caribbean players all the time, and he just said it's a whole different game because it is. It's life. In a way, it's life or death.
Well,
for a lot of those
do you
guys
think another thing too
to get
is,
out of there?
And Brett, maybe you can answer this. That's the game there. That baseball is the game. Here, it's hard to see how many people grow up. I want to be a baseball player. I want to be a football player. I want to be a basketball player. I might want to do something else. Soccer has never caught on.
But it's starting.
It's starting to, and that's going to be our show next week. So I want to tell you ahead of time on soccer. but why do you think it's just the Latin players just have this more a drive? Not all of them, but a good number of them.
Well, even talking over the summer with Coach Tommy at Pace down south, just the stories he was telling about how the parents support and just the amount of the drive to get the most out of their kids. It's just, again, it's their life. That's what they want to do. Here we're split in a lot of different sports, between football and now lacrosse is another big one. It's gaining a lot of momentum, and then you have the soccer as well.
Now,
so it's just,
we just had a parent meeting over in Martin County and for the baseball parents there, and one of the things we talked about, and sometimes I was hoping we'd get our point across, but I don't know if we did completely, because times have changed, and maybe as a parent now, and we're the coaches, and I was an athletic director for 30-something years. I want student athletes to play as many sports as possible, okay? And sometimes parents nowadays, they don't want them to. When I first started at Centennial, there's an FHSA academic award, athletic academic award, that you have to play 2 or more sports. You have to have over 3.5. And you get nominated, you have to write an essay. It's a very, very prestigious award. I remember my first year at Centennial, I had 20, 30 kids. My last year there, I didn't have anybody, and it wasn't because of the 3.5. I couldn't find anybody to play 3 sports. Okay, and it's hard, and I was pushing them, and even when I was coaching, and Brad, you can go over what we want, what you're trying to establish with your program, and then Scott, I want to get into the point what Rick Ankio and I and you talked about the other day about using different muscles, but we want people to play different sports.
Yeah, one of our big things was at our parent meeting was rest. The amount of travel ball now, kids are playing year round, and we're never giving I don't believe the kids are getting the proper time to rebuild, recuperate, and get stronger. It's just go, 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 go. So one of the first things Scott and I sat down and we talked about was, let's figure out a plan that we can get these kids that time. So that's what we did. We brought in Scott's personal trainer, Debbie Roberts, Dr. Frank. They've come in, they've set up a program for us, and that's what we're doing. We're only playing a 6-week fall league, and that's allowing us to go for 2 full months of nothing but recuperation and training. So that's one of our main goals, is to get our kids stronger. Like Coach said, after him watching, he come to me after doing the state tournament last year, and he said, Coach, the difference between those teams and our teams was their strength and their size. Yeah. They're just bigger and stronger than what you had. So those were some of the things that we immediately started figuring, okay, this is what we have to do.
If you listen to our Bone Talk show on Wednesdays, Dr. Sellards is death on travel ball. No matter what the sport is. He just said the kids have got to get some time to relax.
They think that just by playing and playing and playing that they're just specializing in that one field, where they don't realize that if they just played some other sports, how they can actually help with their muscle in different areas that will actually improve them in the sport that they really are passionate about.
And part of the battle is they think this is the shortest way to get a scholarship. And I always brought up, and I think I said it that night, I got the privilege of meeting Billy Donovan when Centennial won the State Sportsmanship Award. And he went to a seminar, and he kind of brought us up there with him, and he was talking with a group of parents, and he says, let me tell you something. Your kid's good. He's got good grades. He's a good kid. We're going to find him. Every coaching staff, and Scott, you played for Florida State, every coaching staff in the nation is got somebody whose job is to go find a kid, okay? Whether they're playing, 1 sport or 2 sports or 3 sports, we want them to play different sports. Now, some of the things that we talked about with Rick on the TV show last week about using the same muscles over and over again, can you go over that?
Repetitive joint abuse. I mean, that's what Dr. Frank Giampetro was talking about. And the discussion that happened was between a parent, Dr. Frank, when he referenced a study that Dr. James Andrews had put on, and basically talking about repetitive joint abuse and the wear down effect. And it was funny, the response from the parent. But ultimately, again, I think Todd said it best. You can benefit from being an athlete, and that's what you used to get drafted for, was being an athlete, not being a baseball player. They can teach you certain things, but it's a different environment, and I think that's what Hawk has done a great job of, is educating the parents as to and being firm with our plan. He's put a lot of time in to develop this. He's using all the resources available in the area, and he's sticking to his guns, and I commend him for that.
And again, it's going to take time to sell your program. I mean, Martin County has always had a great tradition of baseball. Of course, with our good friend Mike Lingren, who's going to be part of our coaching staff. Mike's somewhere up in West Virginia.
Wait a minute, him too?
Yep, he'll be joining us.
Holy smokes!
We're bringing the old timers.
How many coaches do you
I will have senior citizen parking out in the parking lot.
Listen. All I know is,
I love it.
There's 2 things in my contract, which is this big salary, since I can't get paid. I don't do buses. All right.
Barry Bonds.
He wants his own.
We're already going to stipulations here.
Mike and I drive, and we got to have early bird special.
I was going to say, I thought that was the biggest debate was game time start. You couldn't contend with early bird special. We had to have later games.
Me and Mike together. You couldn't put us on the bus with the kids because the stories that we would tell between the two of us. But Mike's somewhere up in West Virginia hunting right now, and hopefully he'll be back by January.
Yep.
And so, that's going to be a lot of fun with Mike. But I'm looking forward to it. And again, say a little bit. We've just finished your schedule.
Coming right out of the gate.
Who are we playing?
Our first opening game, we're going down to play the 6-time champion Archbishop McCarthy.
And whose idea was that?
That was yours, Coach.
No.
Well, that should be a bye for you guys.
So I got to see my good friend Coach Bielski and of course Alex Fernandez, who's coaching down at McCarthy. And I hate to say it, but they got everybody back. They lost 1 player, but what will we say to the kids if we win? I mean, it's going to be super. If we lose, my point is, look at those
That's right.
kids. Look at how they warm up.
That's where we
look
want
at
to
how
get
they
to.
take that's where we want to get to one day. And that's what you got to start on. But you're in a pretty competitive district. You want to go over that district?
Oh yeah, the district is very competitive. Okeechobee has quite a bit back. Jensen has some of the top pitchers around still. Lyon Richardson is one of the best around, right-handed. And then you have South Fork, and Tony is always, doesn't matter what he has, he's always competitive, knows the game. He's going to find a way to beat you no matter what he can do. So in our 14 district, it could be any game, any night, really. That's how it's going to be, I think.
And with a 4-team district, you're really, really playing for one game.
Yep.
You're playing for because the way the state format, and that's going to be another show if you ever get me started on this. Years ago, when we were coaching down in Miami, one team would go, and you were basically, nobody had less than a 6-team district. I was in 8, 9, and 10-team districts. So you're playing 3 games in your district tournament.
Mm-hmm.
Then the next week, you're going Tuesday, Friday. Then the next week, you're going Tuesday, Friday. And then you're going right into a Wednesday at the state championship. You better have not 1, not 2, but 3 pitchers and somebody in the bullpen.
That's right.
Now, the way they have it set up, and again, back then there was only 4 classes. Now there's 9.
Yep.
Okay? Not that there's that many more teams, but they decided to break them up a little bit more. Now, the way it's set up, most schools are in a 14 district. Some are in a 3, which means some clinch. I think PSL
Automatically, yes. PSL's in that district.
They're in the playoffs no matter what
Yep.
during the season. So really, you're going to throw your ace, your district semifinal game.
Yep.
Somebody else throws in the district finals. You're in next week. Then you go 1 game a week for 3 weeks, Greg. You're looking at me. All right, they have spread this out so much now. So you go your regional quarterfinals, your regional semifinals, your regional finals, like a Wednesday. Then when you go to the state tournament, which is a 2-game, state series, it's maybe the following Wednesday. It might even be the following Wednesday after that.
That's right.
So your pitcher is on a normal day rest. So if you got one horse, he can take you all the way. So when I was on the state committee, I used to argue totally against that because you're sending the best pitcher.
That's right.
You're not
It's
sending
not
the
team,
best
it's the best
team.
pitcher. That's right.
You're not sending the best team. And now years ago, and Todd, I think you could remember this when you were coaching at Jensen.
Mm-hmm.
They went to a format one year, which was a great idea, but it was just had so many fallacies where the regional finals, is that correct? Or the regionals?
It was the regional final.
The regional finals was 2 out of 3.
Yeah, and that
Okay.
in that way you can actually have a team aspect as opposed to just that one
That's
stud.
cool.
And
Now, how long did they do that?
Or
2 years.
2 years.
Yeah.
And I mean,
I don't even remember that.
well,
Wow.
we had a few problems with that.
Yeah, Key West had to travel up to Rockledge and
Yep.
And
Oh.
they got rained out. They got rained out the first night.
Mm-hmm.
It went 3 games. So they were up for about 4 days, cost them a fortune. Now, some people were playing on Monday, and we were hosting a state tournament at the Met Stadium. They had to be at the Met Stadium on Tuesday.
right.
They were all over the state playing games because of the rainouts, okay? So it's a great idea if we're playing indoors, okay? If we all had dome stadiums,
Right.
it would be a great idea. The other problem with that was the average score, and you guys, this is the truth. I didn't make this one up. The average score for the 3rd game was 28 runs.
Oh my goodness.
Holy.
Because everybody using your 1, your 2, and then you got nobody left. Because
Right.
usually you got somebody in relief. They're not going complete
That's right.
game. A lot of teams did this strategy. What do you think of this? Your best pitcher went game 2. Okay? Because, all right, if you win with your 2, then you got your horse coming in, you
Sure.
close it. If you lose, you got your horse coming in to stop it. But the problem was there was no 3. There were scores in the 20s, high 20s. I mean, these are good teams because nobody had anybody left. And then when they got to the state tournament 2 days later, they had no pitching left either.
Right.
So they had to scrap that. But now let me ask you, and Scott, you can jump in this too. Is there any rules, and I know not from a major league standpoint, but from a high school standpoint, that if you were the FHSAA, any high school rules that you would change for baseball?
I have one.
Okay, I know your eyes popped up. Here. Okay.
I honestly,
Okay.
I would rather have the one team that goes from the district.
Okay.
instead of 2 teams following through at the district level. I mean, years ago when we played, it was 1 team that left the district. And I know that, there's that balance that goes across the board that you kind of want to make sure that, even the second tier team could easily compete. But I remember those years that we played Okeechobee, my junior year when I was at Martin County. They were 22-4, and we beat them 3 times. We beat them twice in the regular season, and you know how hard it is to beat a team 3
Yes,
times. We beat them in the district championship, and they were kicked out. That was the end of their season, and it propelled us into the regions. But it was just something that it just made it more powerful, special to have 1 team leave the district.
Now, they just changed that, and I'm not going to get started on this football proposal now because they just changed it for football where your district champs are the only ones that are in, and then they're going to do wild cards based on a point system. Now, you can't do that for baseball.
No, not at
But,
all.
Well, what about having the district champion be an automatic seed? For example, the team that wins the most games in your district during the season to make the games during the season mean more.
Now, you
Like the number 1 seed being an automatic
I like
into
that.
the regional
good idea.
playoff.
I like that.
Well, let me tell you something. You can do that. You can, when you have your district meeting, if everybody agrees, you can vote for that.
Can you really?
wow.
You can
Wow.
vote for this a little. You
Where
can
were
vote
you
for
3 weeks ago?
I know.
I was on this show. I got the slave drivers of Boston. There's a little known rule on that you can do that, and you can actually vote to have your district tournament during the year.
Wow.
So I mean, I don't kind of like that.
Because again, Coach, with the 4, like you said, we were
Yeah.
talking earlier, the 14 district, it really doesn't matter. The season, you're playing for that.
You're playing that one game.
That one game.
The
It
one
comes
game.
down to that. Your season comes down to that one game. And it showed that last year with the team we had last year. We won 1 game in the district. We were 1-6, and we went into the district last year and won it.
And
Brett-
you went right through the
Yep,
district.
went right through the district.
And
Right
Brett,
there.
if you go back a few years when you played against Tony with Port
Yep,
St. Lucie,
yep,
you guys had
same
only
thing.
lost 1 game the
Yep.
whole year.
We had lost 2 games the entire year, and then we walked in and hit a hot pitcher, and when Tony beat us, and that was
Now,
it.
for the last 20 years, Martin County has had 1 catcher. Now, who's the catching family in Martin County? There's like several brothers.
The Vasquez family.
Vasquez,
Yes,
yes.
Vasquez family, yes.
Because I would sit there and say, wait a minute, has he been in school 10 years?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, and it's a different brother, yeah.
Yep, different
Amazing.
brother, different cousin. Ever since
It's,
I
they're
moved down
cousins
here
too.
17 years ago, I think we've had a Vasquez in the program
Are
there.
you kidding me? I did
Yep.
not know that.
How
Yeah.
about-
Yeah, it was very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, Rick and I would look at the roster and go, wait a minute, there's another Vasquez here. Yeah, oh yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
when you played, Scott, it was just the district champ that was going through. Is that
Yeah,
correct?
yeah, that's the way I remember it was. I mean, you had to fight tooth and nail, for that one thing. And again, it comes back to it made it special.
Now, are we in this era where everybody's getting the trophy and we're letting everybody in? Is that what we're doing now, or the other thing that I would kind of argue a little bit against that is that let's take for example look at the football district last year where Vero went 10-0, Treasure Coast went 7-2, and a 7-2 or 6-3 Central team did not get in because Treasure Coast beat them and they lost to Vero too. But then there were so many football teams. I forgot the number. I read it this morning. So many teams that got in on a 3-14 district with a 2-8 and a 1-9 record,
Right.
and they went in and they got demolished in the first round. Now football can get way out of hand. Baseball, there's a way of slowing down the game. You guys know how we can do that. Sometimes with football, somebody's going to get hurt on that. But I know the FHSA has very tough challenges. They can't please anybody. It's growing, I think, so fast. I mean, when I started coaching, there was 4 classifications, and there was about 580 schools. Now there's 9 classifications, 700 and something schools, and way more sports. I mean, when I first started, softball was slow pitch. You should see no scores.
Coach, what do you think of the idea? Like, I know that state of Georgia has a private and a public state championships.
When I was up in New Jersey a few weeks ago for a wedding, the New Jersey Athletic Association passed that rule for football. Now they break it up into North Jersey, Central Jersey, and South Jersey. Now North Jersey has a big powerhouses, Bergen Catholic, Don Bosco, that travel all over the country. They broke it up. They put the private schools in one area and the public schools in another area, and they voted on that. There was a vote about 12 years ago to separate public and private, the FHSAA. I was on the assembly, representative assembly, and was part of that vote, and it failed by about 10 votes, which is pretty close. And one of the reasons it failed is, and I didn't notice, there are just as many private schools as there are public schools in this state.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah.
I would not be surprised. In Los Angeles, we had the CIF originally was the private schools, but that expanded out. And of course, LA City schools had their own league. They refused to play all of us. But it started out as privates only, and then just kind of expanded out
now
with the regular growth in California.
The advantage everybody says that private schools has is that you can, not recruit. I will never use that word.
Why?
Persuade.
Persuade. Persuade.
You can admit students. You like that word?
Yeah,
I had
nice
to
word,
think about
Coach.
that.
Nice word.
Greg, extra points for that. You could admit students, and when I was at Pace, I did the same thing. You could admit students from outside your area, outside the county. But now, starting July 1st, unless there's an amendment to the legislature, which I don't think there will be, you can admit students from any school who wants to go to as part of an academic bill if you provide your own transportation and if there's room. Now, this bill was passed as an academic bill, and I don't disagree with the academic part of it. I really don't. If you're a parent, you want your son or daughter to go to best possible school, okay? But we're going to deal with people that are going to use this for athletic reasons. I mean, if you're 6 foot.
Well, you could bring your two pitchers down from Anchorage to go to Martin County High School.
If there's room. Well, the transportation could be a little bit of a problem.
That's a slight problem.
But I mean, if this guy's 6'7" and he walks in and he's got basketballs in both hands, and the principal's going to say, well, there's no room, I don't know what's going to happen. I think it's going to be slightly amended because of tax dollars. How can you justify kids going from one county to the next? But I think within the county, that's going to be a definite.
I've started seeing something now, going back to travel ball, where parents are not allowing their kids to play in certain high schools because they don't agree with the coach's ruling on whether, what position or whatever, and they're going straight travel ball. And that just baffles me to see that they're going to that extreme,
Well, has been I'm not going to use the word worst, but the sport that's doing that the most is soccer. I know when I was the athletic director at Centennial, we had a hard time. We had to schedule a lot of our games around these big soccer travel teams.
No,
and Brett, you coach soccer too,
that's very right?
right?
True.
And I think when Jensen Beach won the state championship that year, they had a lot of kids playing in different soccer leagues.
And John, you had mentioned on that too that you were getting some players back from these tournaments that were injured.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And then, of course, it's on you.
And I actually had a parent come up to me with an injury report and, wanted the medical bills. And I says, it's not even our kid. When he's playing in these tournaments, it's not the the private school. But I think soccer's the big one now. I just don't think they're going to get the recognition in baseball and football. Now, basketball they might, because those AAU tournaments. In fact, now that I think of it, think of some of these basketball teams that what's the one over Mount Verde and what's the other one? IMG Academy.
Well, IMG Academy
now,
is going crazy.
They are not in an association, and the basketball teams travel all over the country. And in fact, if you look at that tournament at the end of the year that ESPN sponsors, there's no schools in it that are part of an athletic association. There are all these independent. Finley Prep, I think that's from Las Vegas.
Yes.
And what's the school in Virginia? Mount something. I know there's a school in Virginia. It's a prep school. They don't play in any associations. They just travel around and they play. And if you can get on ESPN, I mean, we had a young man at Centennial, I think 3 years ago, Justin James, who was He was the player of the year his junior year. He was 20 points, 10 rebounds. And coming back, we would have had a real nice team. And he left, and he went to a private school outside Orlando that was probably no bigger than this building right now. And, he got a scholarship to Wyoming. Well, the thing that, he was a great young man. He represented our school. And, that was his choice. But we had a scholarship from Wyoming when he was at Centennial, too. Mm-hmm. But I just kind of heard, because my coach worked with him for 3 years, and he was just a wonderful young man. I can't say enough things about him. He's playing for Wyoming now, so I give him credit. But can that trend continue? What's going to happen if that trend continues?
Well, and that's what my concern is when I talk to these coaches about this and the misused words of exposure, and that's generally what these travel programs talk about. And you go around and see them, and Hawk has been doing a real good job of trying to gather information to really educate the parents as to where they're really getting exposure. But there's several organizations around that will hear, they're recruiting these kids to go play in these. What's the
showcases?
term?
Showcases.
Oh,
That's
okay.
right.
Showcase is the popular term.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So they're going to these showcases, and then you ask the player, well, what are they having you do leading up to it? They didn't tell me anything. And it's like, hold on a minute. He's expecting you to go out and throw 25 pitches, but he's not giving you a program to stay healthy. And that's the concern that we have is in developing this program that he's put together is, okay, hey, you want to go do that? Give us the dates. We'll help you to make sure that you're ready. Because you got that. You only got one shot at that first impression.
Yes.
And these kids got to go in. And the crazy thing now I hear, and Hawk was telling me the other day, is these kids are actually being touted by colleges. I mean, when we played, you couldn't do it till after your junior year.
Right.
These kids are freshmen, sophomores, and schools are verbally committing to it. It baffles me.
And the sad part is it's not even just the first impression, just because you see some of these guys going to multiple showcases just even during the summer. So, we talk about rest and recovery. They're not getting any opportunity to do that.
And I always believe, let a young man be a young man. There's a lot of other things. I mean, I played baseball, but I did a lot of other things,
Well-rounded athlete.
Well, Coach, the best athlete that's probably come out of Martin County the last few years was Simmons.
Absolutely.
I mean, and he was a three-sport star.
He was great.
You talk about he was a true three-sport star.
Go over that, what he did, Brett.
He was an all-county in basketball, and then football, he was amazing. You saw that when he went and played Boston College, and now he's up there playing for the Broncos.
Is he really?
Yes.
And the young man from Sebastian Parks, who's the best football player in the area, defensive linebacker or lineman, he won the discus in the state tournament. So, you got to put a lot of time and effort into that. And sometimes, we had the award ceremony at where was that? At the Sunrise Theater last year, and Jason Taylor was the guest speaker. And boy, he said exactly what we're talking about. He said, play different sports. He said, I was recruited not by many my colleges. He went to Akron, and he went to Akron to play basketball.
Yeah.
And then when he got there, they got a new coach. What was his name? Jerry Faust.
Faust.
Right?
Yeah.
Jerry Faust from Notre Dame. Yeah. And when Jerry got there, says, you're not playing basketball. And guess what? Jerry Faust was gone the next year, and Jason played basketball, and he's going to end up in the Hall of Fame. But here's an athlete, and what a great speaker he was. He told all the award winners there, and all the nominees, play as many sports as you can. You're going to be found. I think that's the big misnomer, and I'd like to get that across to parents. If you're good, and if you have the grades, and you got to have the grades now to play Division I,
yes.
We
had just talked to Brooke Fordyce the other day about that, and we had heard that just to now go to JUCO baseball to play there, you have to have a 3.0.
Yeah.
They're bumping it up to a 3.0.
Yeah. It is an IRSC.
Yes, an IRSC. So.
Yeah.
Now, Scott, when you went out of Martin County, you went right to Florida State?
Yes, sir. I was drafted. Got privileged to be drafted, turned it down to go to Florida State.
Coach Martin, you enjoyed that, huh?
I tell you, I think there's guys that are emotionally or physically capable of going to the professional level out of high school. I wasn't there. I mentally, as much baseball knowledge as I had, I was very green and very young. So the opportunity to go there and play for that program with that tradition and learn to play at that level was something I needed to be able to make the jump to the next one.
And you spent 7 years in the minors.
7 years, yeah. 3 years at Florida State, 7 years in the minors.
Lot of bus rides.
My only claim to fame was I was traded for the only man dumb enough to charge Nolan Ryan. And I can say that.
Robin Ventura, right?
I can say that because I met him, and he admits, he said he took a couple steps and he realized, what the heck am I doing? But then he goes, I'm already committed, so I got to go the rest of the way.
There's another great story. But
no, it was a great ride. It was a great ride. Learned a lot, and that's, I think, what we try to instill in these younger guys is, regardless if you have a great collegiate or professional career, you're still going to be in the working world for the majority of your life, and to learn the things that you can from sports. That's what I think is so great about baseball, is it can teach you so much about yourself and about life that you can utilize in any aspect, in the business world when you're done. So,
And the minor leagues taught you how to budget your money.
Oh, you got that right. Yeah,
Okay.
You learned where every microwave was, and cooking on your own, and all that.
What was probably just the craziest place or the most different place you played at in the minors?
Every armpit of America you could imagine. No, I tell you, you got to see some great cities. Minor league baseball, professional baseball has done such a great thing at entrusting certain cities with a minor league franchise, and these communities embrace it. They embrace not just the organization but the players. The relationships, I still keep in touch with several of the host moms that I would live with.
That's
and
great.
My wife and I would, and they really take pride in when you make it to the big leagues. Of course, everyone likes to know a big leaguer, but I truly believe these people that become host families, really care about these players.
Now, you were married during all your travels, or?
Yeah, I'm married to my high school sweetheart. So, of course, Todd and I grew up playing together, and him and my wife are good friends. They used to work together. So, yeah, I'm very, very blessed. Going on 20 years.
Did she do all the traveling with you? Or?
She has been with me from Little League all the way, or high school, I should say, through the minors, through everything, college minors, and in the big leagues. So, yep, very, very lucky man.
Okay. I know I was very fortunate to coach a few major leaguers, and I know when Rick Ankiel got called up, and I went up to Alex Fernandez's first game when he pitched for the White Sox against Toronto. Tell me about your phone call you got when you were called up.
No, all I remember is we were in Durham, got called in. It was me and another guy. And Bucky Dent was our manager, and he called us in, and we were both standing there in our towels because we were getting ready to go to the shower. And we walk in, he looks and he goes, "God, wish you guys had more respect for the game. You don't even put your clothes on to get the information, to have me tell you that you're going to the big leagues." And I mean, our towels about fell off. But it was crazy. I mean, to be able to go experience that with another guy, it was quite. And then, of course, the first game we went to was in Fenway Park, Yankees Red Sox. So,
Oh man,
yeah,
what a way to start!
Talk about thrown right in the fire. Didn't pitch, but it was a lot of fun.
It was different. I remember Alex's first game. I went up there, and he got rained out with Toronto. And we spent the whole time talking with Rafael Palmeiro, who was playing for the Blue Jays at that time. And, I mean, he was 20 years old when he went up. And I remember Rick's first game, he pitched against Montreal. He had a really good game on that. But it's been interesting.
Boy, Fenway, I'll bet.
Well, I'll tell you, the neater call was later in my career after I had Tommy John, I was back with the Braves and had worked through a long road back. And actually my pitching coach at the time was my first professional pitching coach in extended spring training in St. Lucie. We co-op, the Dodgers came down here and did extended spring, and I was coming back from that. So he had been through I'd had him in A-ball, AA, all the way up. He was the one that told me I got called back up after having Tommy John. So that was a neater.
Very cool.
Great. Well, I'd like to thank you guys for coming on the show. I'll see you, Brett, Friday night. Okay,
Yep, that's right.
Definitely
That's
at the
right.
game, and Greg, and we'll see everybody next week on the Coach's Corner.
All right, what a great show. Coach's Corner with Coach John Messina, brought to you by the Quit Talk Foundation of Martin County. Thank you very much, Dr. Barry Hummel and company from the Quit Talk Foundation, now in its 10th year of sponsoring Coach's Corner. Mets baseball straight ahead here on WPSL Port St. Lucie. And talk of the Treasure Coast, don't forget, you can watch this show on WPSL TV on YouTube.